Yeah, is this Donji?
Yeah, how's it going, Gerald?
Good. I just my camera is I've got an XPS, and so the camera's at the bottom, so it's got this angle up thing. So I apologize.
No problem.
I don't know if I should maybe put it on something higher, but if this works for you, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, maybe try and put on something higher.
Yeah, let me see if I can find another box. Uh, I just got married, and someone gave us a clock, so let me see if I can balance the
Nice.
laptop on there safely.
How's it going, Gerald?
How's that? A little bit better?
Yeah.
Let's see. It's getting cut off a little bit. There we go.
Or if you drag the window down to the bottom, it'll look a little better.
Oh, so I'm looking down. Yeah, that's a great idea. I haven't done a lot of this.
Yeah, if you just drag it all the way down to the bottom, then it'll look a little better.
Yeah, I'll just shrink the screen as much as I can. It's not letting me. For some reason, it's not. All right, how's that?
Pretty good, pretty good.
How are you?
Not bad. So tell me about the project you've been working on.
Oh, are we recording?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I've been working on a project called GrepMed. It's basically like a Pinterest or Instagram, but for medical reference resources. So we're trying to create a medical reference resource that basically leverages images as a shortcut for information retrieval. As doctors and clinicians, we're just so busy and we're so inundated with information and information overload just in our EMR and all over the place. And so our references right now are basically just textbooks that have been thrown onto online interface, and they're just walls and walls of text, which for me is just overwhelming during the middle of a busy shift. And I find myself just getting frustrated using those reference resources because it's just too much. And so I rely on memory recall, or I found myself using Google Images all the time. And so that's sort of what inspired us to build GrepMed.
And so you've been using your own tool a lot.
Yeah, we're not, I use it when I can. And so we're not the most reliable resources. It's a work in progress. And so I think we have some of the struggles. I think a lot of social sort of networking sites, community sites is part of building our database to be a useful reference tool for clinicians is to get community members to contribute to the website as well. So it's sort of like a Wikipedia for medical reference, but using pictures that are contributed by physicians and other clinicians. And so, right now, you're not going to go to Wikipedia if, half the time you don't get a result. And so we're trying to get better from that perspective.
Nice. And what is wrong with going to Wikipedia? Is it just the access to being able to view images quickly?
Oh, you mean Wikipedia in general, or for Wikipedia for medical stuff?
For medical stuff.
Yeah, so Wikipedia for medical stuff, it doesn't really work. It's most of it is like, even with Google image search or just Google in general, most of it is patient-oriented information. A lot of it's like historical stuff, a lot of very interesting facts, but not stuff that really just helps you get things done and helps you make decisions at the bedside. And so stuff that I'm thinking about are things like algorithms and checklists, decision aids and guidelines. A lot of that stuff gets lost in these big articles, which are, the resources that we have, they tend to be like the research publications that just have been created into articles. And so I find that pictures are just a really quick way a picture's worth 1,000 words, basically. And so Wikipedia is great. Actually, I probably rely on it more than I'd like to admit. But the thing about wiki pages is that there's only one entry for each topic versus for us, I can post a hyponatremia algorithm and a different nephrologist can post his version of hyponatremia and how he likes to think through that problem. And the community can sort of vote on which one is the best, or I can bookmark whichever image I find is most useful for my practice.
Ah, yeah, I see that right here. You have a bookmarking interface. Let me pull that up.
So we're trying to do Reddit style voting where, likes can help us in terms of one measure of quality. And then the second measure of quality right now is bookmark. So if I bookmark something, ideally that's an image that I might return to over and over again. So you'd have to sign up for an account, unfortunately. But, that would be a higher measure of quality in terms of something that's really, really useful.
You said hyponatremia.
Yeah, Anatremia. So
What's that?
you misspelled it. It's go up a bit. Yeah. Instead of a Y, N-A. If you just hit enter, actually, you'll be fine. And so these are different hyponatremia algorithms.
Ah, cool.
And so there's sort of, it's probably one of the most tricky things we deal with in medicine is these patients who have low sodium levels, how to think through that problem and handle that problem.
It does look very complex. And then so sometimes if you just quickly need to find these things, diagrams like this are hard to find. Plus, if it's Wikipedia, it doesn't show you multiple of the different types of displaying the diagrams, is what you're saying.
Yeah, someone decides what the best article is on Wikipedia, and which can get into sort of some politics about who's allowed to edit things. Versus us, we're talking about how to best build in these voting capabilities and possibly even editorial options as well. And so I think, we don't have a lot. I don't think we have anything for orthodontics. I think you type in teeth and we might have some stuff. We've got a lot of orthopedic stuff. And so, if you go to our about page, actually, which might be a little hard to find, there is that picture sort of summarizes what we're about. That's actually an article for hyponatremia, how to manage it. And what I really want is just a quick way for me to look at a few of the diagnoses that I might have, forgot to think about, and to kind of quickly navigate through that structure of the thought process.
And how?
Or 9.
Oh, give me 1 second.
Yeah, sure. As a doctor, you should ideally know most of this stuff. And so sometimes you just need a quick way to refresh your memory without diving into a big article.
And who's developing this?
My co-founder, Kian Kusha, he's doing a lot of different projects on the side. And we actually just met each other at an entrepreneurial event, and he was looking into doing something interesting. And we were talking about a lot of different projects, and this caught his eye. I used to be a software engineer myself.
Oh, wow. Cool.
For medicine, but I was planning on building this myself, but it's just really too much, I think, for one person to do. And with my working full time, he's 10 times better than I could be at this.
And how did you guys meet?
Yeah, we actually just met at like an entrepreneurial event, and he was actually thinking about being pre-med, and so I quickly convinced him that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
I always say that it makes my mom happy, but I had much better hours and better sleep as a software engineer.
Right, but you probably get a lot of fulfillment from your job as it stands right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of, you get to meet patients individually and have a big impact on their lives. But I do find myself missing a way to affect people at scale the way that software can.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get to do the best of both worlds with this project.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see.
And so how many users do you have?
Users, so, most of our traffic actually comes through Google Images. And so we are getting over 200, I think on some days, 250,000 image impressions per day, mostly through Google.
Really?
Yeah, so a good amount of traffic. What we're struggling with right now is trying to figure out how to get people, because people register for the site. We've got 2,000 people registered. but how to get them to come back and to stay here. And so we find most of our traffic comes from Google Images itself, and then they come back usually through Google Images. And so we're pretty happy with this sort of symbiotic relationship because we are the #1 search result for a lot of medical related stuff if you search Google Images. But what we really like is for people to come to us directly.
I got an article for you. Have you heard of Eugene Wei?
No, never.
He wrote this. It's this very famous article that's floating around right now called it's called Status as a Service.
Oh, yeah. I think my co-founder, we were talking about how to build network effects, and I think he sent me a very long article that was a great read about.
Probably was this one. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, I probably need to read it again.
Yeah, and basically what it talks about is, since obviously I'm running a SideProjects.net right now with Sakun, and I think a lot about all the time because I worked on another app before for communities, and what software as a service is basically saying is, or status as a service is, you need things that give people a status, like a reason to something to mine, and so people on, for example, Stack Overflow, the reason why people are motivated to answer questions in part is because they get these like status points, and then like if when these developers apply to job interviews, they can be like, look at all these, I've answered thousands of questions, obviously I'm an expert, and there's no denying that, because the community will upvote their answers. So I think if you had some sort of like leaderboard on your site.
So at the very top, I think you mentioned this you did a nice little UI free critique. We do have a leaderboard. And so if you click on Dr. Harris, for example, one feature we just rolled out was a quick way to see how many image impressions that you have. I think Dr. Harris had emailed us saying that he didn't realize, his images have been seen over 100,000 times each. And so obviously I create the lion's share of most of these images. But right now when you go to our profile, you can kind of quickly see, how many times each image has been seen.
Oh yeah, so you do that. Great. I totally.
Yeah, but we need to figure out a way to make it a little bit stickier. And so, most of these images actually a lot of these images come from Twitter. And so there's a big, what's called free open access medical education movement. So blogs and podcasts, but a lot of people just sharing interesting medical information on Twitter. And so part of what we're trying to brainstorm through is how to get people posting onto our website or cross-posting onto our website rather than posting these great pictures onto Twitter. Where, unless you have a large social media following, and ours is pretty good, your tweet disappears after 24 to 48 hours. So.
Right. So you just want a permanent way. What about like a web crawler or something?
A web crawler, like to crawl Twitter?
Yeah.
Yeah, we thought about that, but there's just so much junk also posted onto Twitter, and that every day there's probably one or two great images that I like to steal, but there's also a lot of junk out there.
Great. So what are you trying to do with this next? What's your next move? What are you trying to, your goals?
Yeah, we want to make a tool that people come back to over and over again. And so right now there's a lot of big players in this space. There's a very expensive program called UpToDate, which is $500 to up to $1,000 a year per user. And, we want to be able to hang with those guys. And so make it so that people come to us first, or, we're actually pretty happy with people going to Google first, but finding us is the #1 result. I think that's probably how most people go to Wikipedia, is they type in Google and then they click on the first result. And so we're trying to work on our search engine optimization. The more Google likes us, the more we'll dominate those search results. Mm-hmm. And the more we'll be able to show potentially content contributors that we're a more evergreen platform than places like Twitter or Instagram.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Great. Well, yeah, it was great talking to you. And I was thinking, how do you have a Twitter or anything like that?
Yeah, it's someone has GrepMed, and so it's GrepMed Ed. And so I think we hit 6,500 followers. And on Instagram, we just started our Instagram 6 months ago, and we just crossed, I think, 13,000 followers a few weeks ago. And so it's rough sledding on Instagram. We're competing with a lot of beautiful people in scrubs in terms of the pre-med community and those medical influencers out there. But yeah,
Oh, this is great.
yeah.
Yeah, quite a following already. That's great.
Yeah, so we're sort of like a B or a C level celebrity on Twitter. But most people who are contributing on Twitter, they've got like 300 followers, 1,000 followers. And so when they post these things, if someone like me doesn't retweet their content, it really just disappears, which is kind of sad.
All right. So to all the people who are listening who are in the medical industry, which I don't know for our niche, there's a lot, but definitely share on GrepMed on the website. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like your guys' site as well. I'll be interested I think you guys are probably going through a lot of what we're going through, which is trying to figure out how to grow a community and, just get people I don't know what it takes to do that. I think we're struggling with the same thing, is how to get people to want to engage and keep coming back.
Yeah. I think our strategy recently has been like doing things that like don't scale. So just like doing things like interviewing people, just making, what I really want to focus on is like the first 100 users, like just get people to really enjoy the site and have a close knit community of feedback, which I think would be the best case scenario for the start. If we had like a group of people who are constantly giving each other feedback, constantly like giving each other tips and like helping each other, showing updates on their projects, as they've followed the feedback and then repost it and be like, okay, what's next? I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. So, I'm a little confused. Is your site just for talking about your site, or is it also for updates as well? So you can repost about your site?
In the beginning, it was just about posting it, but what we
Yeah.
were thinking is like, what's the difference between us and Product Hunt then?
Right. Yeah.
People are going to post a Product Hunt. That's the most optimal place. We're not trying to do like reinvent the wheel there.
Right.
And so what is a side project? Well, by nature, it's not going to be something you'd see on Product Hunt necessarily, because usually side projects are a little more rough than just like a full-on product, So I think the needs of side projects are different than Product Hunt. People who are doing side projects don't need to just publish. They actually really need to get feedback, have like a little community, have show updates and kind of like keep each other motivated. So we were just a site just about posting in the beginning, but now we're trying to transition to have more of like people posting ongoing progress and following up with each other and helping each other out, and like, but also for showing up.
Yeah.
Have you read Steve Jobs' biography?
I don't think so. Oh yeah, I listened to the audiobook.
Yeah, so like in the beginning that they went to that homebrew, that weekly thing where they meet up and share all of their projects that they've been working on, and people would always want to show up with the best stuff and show it off to the rest of the group, and then get feedback, talk about their different inventions after. It kind of turns out that there's really nothing like that online right now, so that's what we're trying to create.
Yeah, I think you've probably been on Indie Hackers, I'm sure. And they have something kind of like that, milestones.
I've seen Indie Hackers,
Yeah.
and it's something like Indie Hackers, I guess. But they're just posting random stuff. Like I think they have the milestones, but they have also all this other stuff, and it's very like kind of all over the place, I feel like. Because you'll get some articles about the best credit cards to get for, things like that. And I think that's cool, because Indie Hackers is like general articles being posted. It's like a general thing for indie hackers to like a little Reddit page. But I think what would be more intriguing is if they just had just the milestones,
Right.
and just like the community of like posting, getting feedback, and following up on each other's projects.
Right. Yeah. I think we were part of that startup school online thing. And I don't know what the recipe is to get a community together to build that, but it's hard. It seemed like there was a lot of, I don't know if you were part of that as well, but there's a lot of dialogue there. But there was also a lot of just, the community was almost too big, and so there was almost too many people posting and not enough people engaging.
Are you talking about Y Combinators?
Yeah, they had a Y Combinator online
Yeah.
startup school. Yeah, which was
Yeah.
actually pretty great.
You liked it a lot?
Yeah, we've got a year's worth of Amazon Web Services credit. I think that's the number one thing. And
Yeah.
then the lectures were pretty good. I would have watched them anyway.
Uh-huh.
But they also had meetups like this where you'd talk to other founders and kind of talk about your struggles, which I thought was the most kind of fun part about it, just commiserating with other founders.
Yeah. I like the startup school as well.
Yeah, so if there's a way to get like that mastermind group feel somehow to capture that at scale.
And see, I think it's more about video. Like, I really think that's the future because, like I said, the kind of like the homebrew thing where people would meet up back in the day, share their inventions. It's all in person. It's all, I think the way startup school works is they're more about posts. And I think that posts are kind of lacking. If you just have a comment, where's the excitement? Why am I super stoked to visit a site just because someone left some comments? I mean, comments are everywhere. But if someone leaves like an actual video review, or you actually like, meet up and do a video chat and talk about it, like, to me, that's more valuable as far as like, why would I interact on a certain site,
Right.
So it's like, if I can build the culture where it's like everyone's doing these video things all the time with each other on this site, and like, and you could meet up with someone, they review your site in front of them, you review theirs in front of them, and you kind of give each other feedback in real time. Like, that's valuable to me, and there's not a lot of sites that provide that interface. And it could just be simple as enough as just in the beginning having people message each other to set up interviews, and then later on we develop a dedicated interface for that.
Yeah, that would be valuable. I think it's hard to find other people the same mindset.
Yeah, and also something that we're thinking about, and I was wondering what you would think, your thoughts on it is, how we have did you listen to our podcast?
I listened to your other podcast. I think you guys have 7 or 8 episodes where you're talking about to Y Combinator graduates.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Those are great.
Like,
I wanted more episodes.
What if some of those people like left some feedback on your projects?
Yeah, that would, those guys are much more successful than we are at this point. So that would be very valuable but they're also very busy people. So how do you get them to do that? I think that's part of our struggle as well, is how do we get doctors to,
Well, I was thinking like after the interview, while I'm already talking to them, just be like, hey, let's review some projects and just go over like the 3 top ones.
That would be super valuable.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of like ways of like kind of tying these people together. And I think video interviews and posting them is just a pretty solid strategy. You talk to doctors, it's like, one thing is having a podcast is great because on my other podcast, it's like when we first started, we had no reputation. There's no reason for people to talk to us. If I were to ever go up to some CEO and be like, hey, you want to meet up for lunch and like talk, they'd be like, no, I don't have time for that. I'm like, hey, I have a podcast. Do you want to like meet up for an hour? Oh, yeah. Right. I'm the same person. It's just I just used the word podcast instead of lunch, and voila.
Right. Yeah. So are you guys continuing to work on that podcast? I know you had a recent episode, but it seemed like there were some gaps. Maybe
there was a gap, and we were trying to figure out how to do it more sustainably. I wanted to kind of bring in a community, a place for the community to live. So then I found Sakun with SideProjects.net, and I've been trying to kind of like merge the two.
I see.
We'll see how that goes, but yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it'll be interesting to follow you guys along.
Yeah. Well, it's great talking to you, Gerald.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and let's maybe do another one of these and just kind of like keep this maybe as like an ongoing thing every month or so.
Yeah, definitely. We'll try to start posting our milestones when we have them, and it'd be great to keep up.
Sounds good, Gerald. Yeah, let me know when you do the update where you kind of make the sides a little roomier.
Okay. All right. We'll look into it.
I think once you do that, the site will look like really good, really dope. It's just a little crowded on the edges, but
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of feedback that we're a little overwhelming just in general. So maybe some white space would help us.
yeah, very cool stuff.
All right.
All right, have a good one,
Have a good
Gerald.
night, Donji.
Bye.
Bye.